All right. Hi, guys. I'm Crystal with One Plant Short of Crazy. And today you guys will be able to see the Monstera Deliciosa grown from seed and how I do the whole entire process. I already recorded this before the 4th of July, so I did this on July 3rd. And I'm just putting things together here, and you never once see my face. All you do is just hear me talking. So without further delay, I hope you guys enjoy. All right, so we have some Monstera Deliciosa seeds. I ordered 20. I haven't counted to see how many I got yet, but I just got these in the mail, so I can't wait until tomorrow to be able to do this. They need to go in their container. But we're going to talk about the Monstera Deliciosa seed first. I'm going to show you guys here. There's one that we can see on the table that has an actual root coming out of it. But we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So I paid for 20. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 extra, which is good because this one right here may or may not root. I can kind of show you there's a little bit of a broken area in there. It might not work. So we're going to talk about how I root these from seed and a little bit about what the Monstera Deliciosa fruit actually looks like. So if you have a mature Monstera Deliciosa, you will eventually get a fruit, and the fruit kind of is in the shape of like a corn cob, and it's almost about the length of a corn cob as well. And what will happen is these little green pockets will grow around the outside, also looking like corn, and it'll be really green, and then as it starts to get ready, it'll turn a little bit more yellow, and you can eat the fruit from the Monstera Deliciosa. If you just take a spoon, you can scoop it off, you can eat it. It's kind of like a cross between a fruit punch, a pineapple meets a pina colada. It's really good. It's kind of random, but for me, I don't care about the eating of the fruit. What I want is I want the seeds. None of my Monsteras are mature enough yet to produce seeds. Generally, Monsteras will produce fruit when they are mature enough. They're in the perfect natural environment where their heat is going up during the day, it's going down during the night. They're crawling, they're climbing, and they're doing their natural thing. I don't have that because I have all indoor plants in here in Idaho, which means my Monsteras can never live outside except during the summer, so it makes it a lot harder. But I do have an Etsy seller, and I'll put the name in the comments of the Etsy seller. And this is my 4th round of buying Monstera seeds. I have yet to have a single seed not actually root. So we're going to talk about what we're going to do with these and how we're going to treat them. We'll scoot them over here gently. And I just have a little plastic container here. So in the bottom of the container, I have some coco coir, just very, very, very small layer of coco coir. My main rooting is a perlite and sphagnum moss mix. And as you can see, this container is extremely tall in comparison to how much soil I actually have in here. So I only have between the coco coir and the sphagnum moss, maybe what is that, like 1.5 inches? If I were to push it down, probably 1 inch. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of fluff this a little bit, and we're just going to simply put the seeds in. So I'm just going to grab the seed, and I'm just going to tuck it in, grab the next one, tuck it in, and we're just going to do this throughout the container. I space them about, what is that? I don't know. I'm horrible at geometry. So I would say maybe that's about a 2-inch gap. This one's a little bit less. That's all right. We'll just kind of scoot it there. And then we're going to put one more nap. I'm going to make it like a checkerboard. So I've got one here, 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 none over here. I put one in between on the next layer. I'm going to go one in between on this layer here. So we're just gonna layer them. Not layer, checkerboard, whatever. So I've got that in there. We'll go to the next one. I'm just gonna pop it in. My moss is coming to life. That's what the moss looks like when it comes back to life. My moss always comes back to life because I like to keep my moss happy and moist. So we're just gonna continue this pattern and we're gonna checkerboard this through. I'll put one on the edge here. We're gonna do another one here. Let's see, I did boom, boom. So we'll do one on the corner over here. We'll do one in the middle here. I'm running out of room, so I'm trying to make it fit here. We're gonna do one there, one there, one there, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 left over. So what we'll end up doing is I'm just gonna lightly kind of close the tops here. I'm not really doing anything more than just kind of moving things, and that's gonna allow a little bit of moisture to kind of hold around the seed. You can still see some of the seeds throughout the moss here, so it'll do really well with holding the moisture in. What I'll do is I'm gonna end up, oh, there's a root from an old Monstera. Is that a root? Ooh, is that a root or a seed? Let's see. No, just a root, old Monstera. So I don't know if there's any part of a Monstera left on that, but we'll go ahead and leave it in the soil and just find out. So what I'm gonna do is I've got a couple extra seeds here, so I'll grab another little couple containers and I'll put these in before they dry out, but we'll just set those aside for now. So as you can see, the actual container here, it's kind of hard to see the actual Monstera seeds in there, but I will leave this when it starts to get a little crinkly. When I touch it, that's when I'm going to give it some more water and moisture. There are 0 holes in the bottom of this container, and that's totally fine. I'm also going to put this underneath one of my plant stand areas that has grow lights all over the place. The only issue with that area is it is slightly colder in the house down there because it's very, very bottom, very lowest floor. It's just colder over there. So what I may do is I may put some saran wrap over the top of this, and I might just sit it upstairs on top of my dresser. I have a wonderful window that provides morning light into it. It's great. And then bright indirect light, but it's extremely warm in our top section of our house. So that'll kind of help with this moisture. The more I think about it, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'll put saran wrap over the top. I'll take some tape and I'll tape around the outside, and I will just leave that saran wrap on. My moss will continue to grow and come back alive, or back to life. What I'll tell you is sphagnum moss, so let me show you what it looks like when it comes back to life. We'll put this down. So sphagnum moss, when it comes back to life, actually gives a really good pH balance for Monsteras, philodendrons, pothos, and scindapsus. So if you can get your moss to come back to life without actually rotting your clippings that you have, it's amazing. It is definitely a very delicate balance to be able to get the moss to come back to life without rotting out your actual plants that you're rooting, because moss naturally likes to be moist and our plants naturally like to rot when they're moist. So like I said, it's a happy balance. I wrung this out, all of the moss in here. I squeezed it out before I put it in. The coco coir underneath was watered 2 weeks ago when I put the mix together, so it has a little bit of moisture, but I keep the lid off so it doesn't stink like nasty socks. So kind of, you know, my moisture level, I like to keep the top level pretty good. I'm going to put this one down just a little bit lower towards the coco coir because I want the moss to continue to grow. All right, so I want to show you what happens after this. So I'm going to set this out, and I'll take a couple pictures and I'll put the pictures on Facebook afterwards so that you can see when they start popping up. But what I want to show you is what happens after all of this is done. So this will take probably about 3 to 4 weeks. For me, okay, we're gonna actually be realistic. For me, I am the world's most ultimate procrastinator, so probably more around the lines of 6 to 8 weeks worth of rooting in here before I even look at them and consider putting them into a different container. The last batch of Monstera seeds that I had in this container, it was so root bound, the bottom of the container was completely white with roots, and I broke a lot of roots trying to separate it out and move everything apart. And I didn't really like that. So I'm not going to wait as long as I did last time to actually pull the Monsteras out and put them in their individual containers. But I'm definitely waiting until I can see roots all along the clear area, which is why I love these. So I'm going to show you what it looks like after. So we've got a couple different guys here that I've had off to the side. These guys just recently got put into their first little individual pots. And we can see this front one here has some of the sphagnum moss. I just watered it, so you'll see water down there. But it's got some moss growing in there, which is always just absolutely beautiful to see. I love seeing it because I know the pH balance is amazing. But what I want to show you is I want to show you what it looks like. We're not going to do it with my mossy one. I like this one, and we're going to leave this guy alone, so we'll just set him aside. Let's do it this one because I need to pinch off a leaf. So you can see this little tiny leaf down here. It's slightly dying out. That's because I let this get just a little bit too dry for what you need with Monsteras. So when you're rooting a Monstera, think about it the way that you root any vegetable seed. So if you guys have gardens or anything like that, you know that when you germinate something, you tend to keep the medium slightly more moist to be able to encourage those roots to pop out. Kind of like when you have beans or something like that. It's hilarious, but every time I make beans, I usually have leftover beans after about 24 hours of sitting in the little container after I soaked them. I'll start to have little roots pop out. Well, it's because the moisture got into the seed and it allowed it to do that and activate the growing. So we need to keep our seeds slightly moist. This is obviously too moist, so I want to show you this. This container does not have any holes in it, but I just watered it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze the water out since this one doesn't have holes. I don't like containers without holes, but when I'm rooting Monsteras, that's okay. This one here, I believe has holes. Nope, this one doesn't, so we'll do the same thing. And we're just going to kind of lightly, but I want to show you what this one looks like because this has really good roots. So you can see down on the bottom that we have some roots there. I want you to see the top before I take it out. So there's the Monstera seed. It's still on the top. And then if I pull this out, we can see, I'll pull it apart because I want you guys to see this. I'm very gentle. I only pull my Monstera seeds and roots apart right after I've soaked the moss because the moss will actually like cinch up against the roots. And I don't want my roots to crinkle and crack. So I'm just giving everything a good soak here for a little bit, and then just like I did, I'm going to dump out the extra moisture, but I want to show you guys. So this is adorable. So you've got this little seed here, and this little seed here produced some really good roots out of it. You can see all the root system here, so really, really nice. And then we've got some new Monstera leaves coming out of the top here. This one is the first leaf, the one right here. This one will be the next one to split. So eventually when the roots are filled in, this little stem here will give us a nice little split. So what I'll do is just take it and put it all back in. So when I put them in, so this back here, when this is done, this is exactly what I'll do. I will get the roots broken out. I will hold it in the cup just like this with the roots stretched out like this. So I like my roots to be in every different section of the cup. What this does is it allows for the moisture to be sucked up from the cup from the bottom all the way up. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is when they repot, they tend to leave the old soil on the plant, which means that when you repot, generally, your plant is truncated down to an area about that big. If you put this directly onto moss and you have the whole bottom section of this full with moss without roots, that whole entire bottom section is not going to be soaking up moisture. None of the roots are going to be pulling it up. So, like I said, I like to hold it in. I hold it at the level that I want my plant to be the top level. So for this one, I want it right there. And then I'm just going to slowly drop in some moss, gently let it fall into place with soil when I do this, because I do this when I plant up to soil. I'll just kind of shake it a little bit and hold it. It helps it hold it into place. I have another Monstera seed in here. That's hilarious. So here's a Monstera seed that has not rooted from the first round, but it's not rotted. So I'm actually going to move this one into this container here, and we'll move it in. But for this, we're just going to go and we're just going to fill it up. So I'm not really packing it in. I'm just kind of filling the gaps in there. Taking all my stuff. My table's clean. I clean it after every time I use it. But now I've got a nice little airy mix down there. I even have some moss that's coming back to life in there. And my Monstera seed's still on the top, so it's going to continue to do what it's supposed to do without rotting out. So that's how we plant them up. And then for this one, we'll just take this, and I had some space over on the corner over here. We'll just pop it in. So that one hopefully should root. But in here, I've got a bunch. And hopefully they will end up being like these guys here soon. So I'm just kind of dumping out the excess here. We don't want the excess in. I let them soak up for a good while. I squeeze out a little bit. Kind of manhandle it and get that extra moisture out. We don't want it to soak. These plants, ooh, this one's looking good. See that one there? We can see some good roots on the side. This one, I'm going to take that little lower leaf of the one we just did, and I'm just going to pinch it off. It's doing absolutely nothing for the plant except taking up added resources for water, nutrition, all of that. So I'm just going to pluck it. All right. So this is all squished. I'm going to put a couple extra seeds that we have in these containers. They'll root while they're here. And then this one looks absolutely beautiful too. So that is how we do Monsteras from babies, from seeds, and start from seeds in a container like this to move to Monsteras in a container like this. And when we come back, we'll talk about some of our more mature Monsteras and what we do with them.